Dames en heren, goedemiddag.
Hoi hoi, hello and welcome to the Meet Maastricht podcast. I'm Katrina and together with our resident local Lucy, we will be exploring some of the amazing stories that make Maastricht so special. So sit back, relax and join us as we learn about our favourite Dutch city. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 26 of the Meet Maastricht podcast. I'm Katrina here with Lucy as always, and I don't need to ask what we're going to talk about because I'm very excited to talk about the scale models in Maastricht.
Yes, I promise that. We have them in the Meet Maastricht tour programs.
Yes.
As one of the tours we are offering, and then it's called the Tiny Towns Tour, just because I thought that sounds nice. But these tiny towns are scale models. Yes, that's exactly what they are.
And so there are 3 scale models for a relatively small city.
Yes.
Which one is the oldest one, and how did it come about?
Well, all of these stories are convoluted, so here goes. The oldest one is the original of the one a copy was made of, which is now in Centre Ceramique.
Oh yes.
Okay, that original is not in Maastricht, but let me start there because it'll help us have a sense of what these are and what these were, these scale models, because their significance has also changed over time. And the 3 that we happen to have in this city give you an idea of that shift in significance. So why were they built in the first place? This is stratego, basically. So military strategy. It's reconnaissance. It is looking at the object you are going to attack and take stock of size and situation. Where are the heights where you could put your cannon?
Yeah.
Where is the water that will hinder your advance? Where can you put your troops? How do you use the field? This is what they were for. And of course, military commanders have been using maps for that for ages. But somewhere in the 17th, 18th century, they probably even before, I don't know, they thought it would be handy to have 3-dimensional maps.
Yeah.
This became an extremely specialized, intricate science all by itself, this building of the scale models for kings to peruse the battlefields. And you can hear by my tone that, of course, it would also serve the added function of, showing how mighty you are as a king. If you... a ruler, if you have a collection of these places that you looked at and then shot and conquered.
Well, they're also just very impressive as pieces of art.
Exactly.
The one in the Centre Ceramique, there was only a small part of it on display, but it's much bigger than that part if you've seen it. So it's huge.
It is in the collection of the Sun King of France, Louis XIV.
Yeah.
It is one of the medium-sized models. So he had scale models that were lots larger than this one.
Yeah.
And the whole collection was at Versailles for a time, of course, because that was his the focal point of his radiance. So of course these scale models had to be there as well. I think they were moved to the Tuileries, which is a palace in Paris proper as well. But they have been housed in the Dôme des Invalides in Paris now for a long time, until they split the collection a few decades ago. And the northern ones, and Maastricht is of course one of those, is now housed in Rijssel, or the French name for that city is Lille. And it's, we will usually say Rijssel, and that's in the far north of France. So that's where the original Maastricht scale model is, which was built in the middle of the 18th century. So that is the oldest one.
Yeah. When they were doing that, how did they get all the measurements and stuff? Because I was thinking about that the other day. It's not like they had a helicopter that they could fly over the top, and I imagine they weren't trying to be very obvious measuring things because it was a secret sort of reconnaissance type situation.
Yeah, so there was the combination of things. It would be spies, secret reconnaissance. It would be logs of earlier camps, reports of earlier sieges, and the French have continuously attacked us over the centuries. So there must have been a fair bit of information, and also the French kings would conquer the city and lose it, and conquer it and lose it, and conquer it and lose it. So they have also been walking around on the ground and cataloging everything.
Yeah, you just do your measuring while you're in power and then save it for later.
Yes. Yeah, but they did an extremely thorough job of it. So it's very faithful representations of the city, with one exception. The scale of the entire thing would be 1 to 600, except they enlarged the representations of outstanding buildings, to make them more conspicuous for target.
Ah, okay.
So this is what you shoot at. Okay.
Yeah. I feel like that was a double-edged sword though, because if you're looking in the distance for the massive building that you're going to bomb, and then it's a disappointingly smaller version.
Yeah, but all of the commanders would have been aware of this, so it just helped them to recognize and pinpoint targets in the city, and it's and it's also why in so many of the stories dealing with the large convents, we were talking about how they were destroyed in the bombardment by this king or by that king, and so they would often take a beating.
Yeah.
And it's a small miracle so much has been left standing,
Yeah.
in all of these decades of war. So anyway, that was their primary function. And then what happened after that is that in the early 1970s, this French scale model came to Maastricht, and it was on display here. And all of the city came to see it, and everybody was and marvelous, and gee, does it really have to go back to Paris? Yes, it really has to go back to Paris. And then a group of people were formed who were going to organize and arrange the financing of building a copy.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing here is that was also done by an army unit.
Ah.
So yes, I think this is cute. So in the 20th century, in the 70s and 80s, there were still units in the Dutch army who were experts at building scale models.
Yeah.
Because they still thought that type of information was valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess now it would be all digital.
Yes.
But I still like a good scale model.
Yes, of course. So, and this thing has the same dimensions as the French one, which means it is really large. It is 6 meters and 80 centimeters by 5 meters and 80 centimeters. So say 7 by 6.
Yeah. So it's sort of a room size. Yeah, just so people have an idea. It is, if you haven't seen the chunk of it that was in Centre Ceramique when it was open, it is it's bigger than that.
And then the arrangement that was made, because the thing was lugged about and in hiding and not accessible, and people got sick of that too. And he said, please, put it somewhere where we can see it. And there was really no place to put it where it could all be seen. So the arrangement is, the part that contains the city itself is on permanent display in Centre Ceramique, and will be again once it is open, because of all the construction and because of Corona. So we'll just have to wait for that. And once every 5 years, it will be assembled in its entirety. I don't know how long ago we last saw that, but of course in Corona times it is a safe bet. Nothing's going to happen. So find it on the internet. It is,
and it is also being digitized as well.
And that is the latest installment in the story of the scale model. Yes, the University of Florence has devised a technique for digitizing objects like these.
Yeah.
The city of Maastricht has managed to get the financial and technical resources together to have them digitize the scale model.
Yeah.
So the copy scale model of the French scale model. And they are now turning that, very interesting, into a citizen science project.
Yes.
Because the digital representation is now no more than just a massive amount of pluses and minuses or zeros and ones or whatever, digital.
Yeah.
There's nothing to see.
Okay.
And Centre Céramique, of course, very much wants there to be something to be seen. So they are going to produce products which might take the shape of maybe a game or something like that.
Okay.
Which will give you a view of the city. And for that, this will take time, of course. It is a lot of work to give any kind of meaning to all those zeros and ones, and they are asking people to come and participate. And it is to add human eyes to the digital information. So there will be digital formats being shown with questions. Is this a house? Yes. Is this a window? Yes. Is this a door? Yes. And so on and so forth. But there's a lot of humans necessary to help get this done. And the entire thing is in English.
Ah, very cool.
So yes. So all of you non-Dutch speakers, if you'd like to give a hand.
If you know what a house looks like, and a window and a door, and you speak English, you're all set. You're the people they're looking for.
It's a low bar, and so which also means you might get bored very quickly. But all assistance is very welcome. So. And I think, as a historian, I think it's cute that something that started in the 18th century is now getting this new lease on life in the 21st.
Yeah, very cool. And so with I don't know actually which one is next. Which scale model is the second oldest?
The one that I am participating in and contributing to my best ability. Yes. I'm not a scale model builder at all. But
well, you build scale models, so I think you're a scale model builder, Lucy.
Yeah, well, no, but I mean, Katrina, there are people around that table in our workspace where we can't go to now, who have actually been professionally trained to be scale model builders. So that is a profession, or at least it used to be. In the more traditional sense, because of course these days everything is digital, and but there are real craftsmen out there, and we've got a few in the club, and the club is called Maastricht 1867.
Yes.
We have a website, and the parts of that scale model which are finished are on view if you contact us. Mm-hmm. So that scale model is not in a public place, but we can take you there. It is on a floor in the malt house of the historical brewery De Keizer, the Bos Brewery in Wiek.
Yes.
And of course, the Bos Brewery offers tours, which also pass through the malt house. But of course, the Bos guides will talk to you about the brewer's family Bos, and they will talk about the history of the brewery, and they will talk about beer making. And they are excellent experts on that topic. And they will say a few words about the scale model. But if you want to have your ears ringing with all the stories about the scale model, then contact us.
Yeah, Yeah, and I will put links and things, and
Yes.
you can contact Meet Maastricht to
Yeah.
find out more about the project as well.
Mm.
And so, do you work on it in the malt house, or do you work
No.
separately and then
Yeah.
and then you bring it there?
Yeah. Yeah. And over the years we have the organization has started, because they've been at it for 30 years by now, and it will, so we is sort of, this goes over, well, when we're done with it, I think a century will have passed. It's that's sort of the time scale you have to think about here.
Yeah.
It used to be so that the production could be a bit haphazard. Some for instance, the university would say, "Would you please build the scale models of all our historic buildings that are in use by the university now, and we will give you some money to do that." And then that would happen,
Yeah.
And then someone else would ask, "Could you please," something like that. And of
Yes.
course, people were building things because they wanted to build these particular things,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth.
That's what we need, Lucy. We need to ask people if they want a podcast on their building.
Yes, yes,
We are open to commissions on our podcasts.
yes. That's a good idea. Anyway, what we have started doing more and more in the past few years is to delineate a section of the city and then build that in its entirety.
Okay.
So right now we are finishing up a part of the city right next to a bassin. So along between the river and the Boss Street, and between Bassin and Market.
Okay.
And it and almost there's practically nothing left of the neighborhood the way it was.
And the bassin is right next to the Lumiere sort of.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
If people are trying to picture, it's the basin of
it's
the little
the
harbour.
basin. Yeah, and that also leads directly to why 1867.
Yes.
It is a representation of the city as it was, as exact as we can make it on the basis of archival matter. So we only build what we know for sure was there. We're not guessing at all, because it was in the year 1867 that Maastricht lost its status as a fortified city. In that year, the then King of the Netherlands declared a series of fortifications null and void. So that was the end of a military history of hundreds and hundreds of years, which increasingly had, determined the character of this place, the way it looks, the way it functioned, the way it survived or not, and so it's a very, very momentous year in the history of the city. At the same time, so what it shows is all the fortifications of Maastricht at its greatest extension, because of course after 1867 nothing was added anymore to the fortifications.
Right. Yeah.
What did happen immediately in 1867 is that people started tearing them down.
Yeah.
Because the city was bursting at the seams.
Yes, I can imagine.
Yeah, and you can see that on the scale model by the way in which all the new industrial activity, all of it 19th century, of course, was pushing up against these fortifications. You can just see how, physically, tangibly, you can see how the walls were constraining the town, and it's so it's an interesting moment in time.
Yeah, and so it was obviously that was a decision made early on, because that's one of the first decisions you have to make. How did the group start and sort of make those decisions?
Well, it gets a bit convoluted there because of well, this was 30 years ago to begin with, and it deals with the differing opinions from experts. So people wanting to go in different directions, and then of course Maastricht has an organization, Stichting Vestingstad Maastricht, the foundation fortified city in Maastricht.
Okay.
And they are housed in the Hellgate, and they provide tours in the fortifications and in the underground fortifications. Of course, also not now, but yeah, normally speaking.
Yes.
And they have scale models in the Hellgate as well that show you parts of the fortifications.
Okay.
And it must have been, I don't know really, it must have been in that group that the idea was hatched to make another scale model, and then there was, I know for sure, there was disagreement, which then led to the foundation of the Stichting Maastricht 1867.
Yeah.
And it's just experts going separate ways. That's really the basis of there being these two organizations. At the same time, we're doing very different things, right? I mean,
yes.
Stichting Vestingstad has the three-dimensional scale 1-to-1 city to show to people, and we are dealing with a scale model on the scale 1-to-500.
Jesus.
Yes, it's just, it's manic. It really is. And it depicts the city as it no longer exists. So, yeah.
And it's, for those who haven't seen it, the base is sort of an or maybe not all of it, but is like an aerial photo as well of the landscape. So even though it's slowly coming together with the buildings, you can sort of see the landscape, and then the buildings are added on top, which is a nice way. So when you look at it, it doesn't look
incomplete.
Higgledy-piggledy and undone. It's very cool. I definitely recommend, if you like scale models and you like Maastricht, then having a look.
Come and have a look, and we'll include some pictures so you get a sense of this. It is as Katrina says, the aerial picture of the contemporary city gives you an idea of where you are, and it shows you what has been completed, because the completed bits have been put on top. So, and then they're three-dimensional.
Yeah. I was just going to ask, before we move on to our final tiny town, how long does it take approximately to make a small building, like a house or something? Because I imagine, like, the town hall would take a while, but do you know approximately how long it takes to make something simpler? In quotation marks, you can't see, but I'm doing it with my fingers.
It's everything is built out of paper, except of course the floor pieces. That is board.
Yes.
But the buildings are made out of paper mostly, or wood, and the plans are drawn up digitally. So we are managing to sort of inhabit the 21st century, and it's and it is very useful, of course, to have the scale solidly in place.
Yes.
So all the drawings are made digitally. In order to make a drawing, you have to have corroboration from archival information.
Yes.
So there is that amount of time, and the amount of time needed to corroborate scale, position, looks of an individual building might differ wildly. I know that our main draftsman can spend weeks going through pictures and drawings and etchings to try and figure out what on earth was going on with that particular roof. I am making a building now which has been keeping him awake. I know for sure, and but he needs to be correct about it. So it is not built if we are not sure, and in that sense, of course, it is a totally scientific enterprise. So there's that. But if you, as a builder, sort of, I would take to just build one separate simple house.
Yes.
Painting it, adding the windows, putting on the details, gluing it together, fitting a roof. and all the detail that entails as well. That would take me. I'm not the most experienced of builders. That would take me 2 to 3 hours.
Okay.
And then it, connected to that, the work that the draftsman has already done.
Yeah, and all the research and yeah.
Yeah. And then, and there are some of us are working at home. I mean, the master builder who is for the past 2 years now has occupied himself with the St. Servaas Basilica is working at home usually, and
I imagine that's quite a big project.
That is, and he and the draftsman can spend half an evening arguing over one window, easily. It's just,
At least there's probably quite a few photos of that building, whereas I imagine some of the smaller places that might not necessarily have many visual sort of records that what you need really to work out what's going on.
Yeah, true. So what also happens, I mean, if the buildings are still in existence, we will be out in the city and taking pictures. And I can remember when I had not been doing this for a long time yet. I was out in the city without anything to take pictures with. And I have stood there looking at the side of a building, counting the amount of iron beam anchors that you could see in a particular wall, and then people will pass you and look at you funny.
Look a bit crazy counting the beams.
Yeah. What's this woman doing? Yeah, so that happens a lot. I mean, a scale model was built of the Bos Brewery, and of course that is a building that being for beer production and industrial activity and storage and all that sort of thing. Of course, that was adapted again and again and again, and not very respectfully, as you can imagine. And so the people documenting that were they had weeks of work figuring out what was there first and what came after, and yeah. So, but it is, if you don't enjoy this sort of thing, you're not doing it. It's that simple.
Yeah.
So, we might sound like we're crazy, but we're having
labor
fun.
Of love.
Yes, exactly. So, it's just fine.
And for all the precision and effort that you're putting in, it does, not that effort wasn't put in, but the precision, I feel, is something that is lacking from our third model. I know you've said that it's not as it is a little bit higgledy-piggledy. The one by one of the brothers of the Bayard. Yeah. We've talked of the brothers of the Bayard before, and their crucial role in educating Maastricht, and yes.
Individual brothers did this in all sorts of ways, and quite a few of them as historians or cultural historians. And the most famous of them all was brother Sigismund Tagage. He was a teacher at a school, but he also deeply loved the town and wanted to protect it wherever he could. And he was connected to all sorts of initiatives, St. Servaas Basilica to begin with, but many others as well, to document, to research, to preserve. And one of his pet projects was building a scale model, and he did this in the years after the Second World War, and with the help of his fellow brothers. And I suppose they've spent quite a few happy evenings cutting little wooden houses and painting their exterior and making little foam trees and all of that.
I like a good foam tree.
Yeah, it's yeah. When we were repairing the stuff, we had to make all of them new because foam just sort of evaporates.
Disintegrates. It just goes away.
I don't know what happens to that. It just disappears. So we cut a few hundred new foam trees, and then after that you keep finding bits of foam in all sorts of places where you don't want it.
It's like glitter. You look at glitter and it's all over your house.
It's just, I don't know, horrible stuff. But anyway, it was he was not primarily concerned with historical accuracy.
Yes.
Of course, the French army was, and after that the Dutch army was, but they were not interested in historical accuracy for history's sake. They were doing that for the motive of knowing where to throw their bombs at. The Maastricht 1867 scale model is extremely particular about historical accuracy, but Brother Tergage just wanted to portray his dream version of Maastricht.
Yeah.
So he combined elements from different centuries and just made the city look the way he would have liked it to look.
Yeah.
But then when it was presented in public, a few were sticklers for the facts, sort of burned it down as, yes, inaccurate.
Yeah. It's just such a shame because it sounds like there was so much love put into it and a joy for Maastricht, which is, I mean, if your aim is something different, then it's sad that people didn't appreciate that. But we can appreciate it now.
Yes, we can again, because Brother Tergage was so disillusioned with this. Because of this reaction, he pretty much washed his hands of the scale model and pretty much deserted it. You do with it whatever you will. And then for a long time it was neglected terribly.
Yeah.
It was stored in spaces that were totally unsuitable, so the mice would eat it and the pigeons would shit on it, and yes, it did become very higgledy-piggledy with all of this. Also because the brothers had not really been using top-notch material at all. You know, they were just. You got
to use that. You got special glue, like archival quality things that don't destroy everything.
No, no, they were using whatever came to hand during their happy evenings of building mini Maastricht. So, you know, there's all sorts of stuff in that scale model.
Stuff gets moldy.
Yeah.
It's, if you don't use the right kind of things. But I quite enjoy the image of sort of giant mice destroying Maastricht.
Yeah. Just
like
nibbling away.
Godzilla, but the mice version.
Yeah. Exactly. That, on a different scale, same result. Yeah. So and then it was Paul Timon, and it is really weird. I'm only mentioning him now because Paul Timon in Maastricht is more or less Mr. Scale Model. He doesn't particularly enjoy being called that, but he has played. He has played and continues to play a crucial role in all things scale model in Maastricht.
Cool.
So he's been ever since he was a kid, basically, diving into every subterranean fortification he would find and investigate and map out and then copy and miniature and endlessly. He no longer lives in Maastricht. He has moved to France with his wife, but he will still be here from time to time, and then usually there will be something scale model going on which requires his attention.
Yes.
And it because he's his prime activities are concerned with art, and a lot of that is miniaturistic. How do you pronounce that? Very small, but not necessarily scale models of cities.
Yes.
But anyway, he was connected to Stichting Vestingstad. He is the initiator of the scale model of Maastricht 1867. And he has saved the Tergage maquette.
Yeah.
So he a couple of years ago, he finally managed to actually be asked to restore it, because it's not his property. So he couldn't just go and do whatever needed to be done. But when he got the assignment, he restored it.
Wow.
And after that restoration, the restored scale model was housed in the Porter's Lodge of the Bayard Convent.
Yes.
This is not Corona related, But it will be taken from there and put in storage.
Oh.
Yeah, because in the Porter's Lodge you can see it.
Yes.
It is publicly accessible from the Brussels Street, and if you want to have a peek at it before it goes into storage, you have to do that in the next couple of weeks. So get yourselves over there.
Why is it being moved?
Because the Bayard has been sold.
Oh, okay.
It is no longer owned by the brothers.
Yeah.
Like so many convents, it needs to be repurposed. And the congregation of the brothers is basically dying out. Yeah. So they want to safeguard their inheritance for as far as they can manage. And it seems the buyer is willing to cooperate, so the scale model will be put into storage.
Yes.
And if everything goes according to plan, keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Light a candle. It will be rehoused in the Bayard proper, so in the building itself, when the restructuring is done.
Yeah.
So that means that for the time being, all 3 Maastricht scale models will not be publicly accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah, except, you can come to see the Maastricht 1867 one, but it is not in a public space.
And if you do want to see the one right near the Porter's Lodge, it's in the next couple of weeks. We can definitely give you a Tiny Towns tour. Soon it will be the Tiny Town tour, because there will be one that we have access to.
Yeah.
But if you want to get in for the last minute Tiny Towns, plural, we'd be happy to show you. And even if you don't come on a tour, go and have a look. I'll try and attach something that has a map so you can find it, and press the button that makes the light come on. And because it's a lovely little secret gem in Maastricht. Well, I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to add.
No, I think that's it for today. I've been chewing everybody's ear off quite sufficiently, I think.
Well, like as we said, if you'd like to organise a Tiny Towns tour, make sure you contact us. Lucy has secret access to exclusive access.
I have a key.
Okay, Lucy has a key to the to see the 1867 maquette, which is very cool, and so we'd love to show you that one. And I guess, what are we talking about next week?
This is a challenge I have been putting off. But of course I can't really. I've mentioned it several times in this podcast, and it is mentioned often enough in many of the others, and that's the Sinterklaas Church itself. I mean,
I was wondering when the big ones were going to be brought out.
Exactly. We haven't. I am just to not burden your ears too much. I would suggest we spend 2 episodes on Sinterklaas.
Good plan. It's a big one.
It's a big one. Yep.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and don't forget to follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook by searching Meet Maastricht, and on Instagram at @meet_Maastricht. If you would like to learn more about us, you can also visit our website at meetmaastricht.eu, where you can buy tickets and subscribe to our monthly newsletter, so you're always up to date. Thanks again, and tune in next time to learn more about our beautiful city.
Tot ziens.